Good morning. My name is Georgia, and we are the University of Otago team. We are very pleased to be presenting for you today. Within this case, we identified some key issues, one of them being how can FEA increase its impact and therefore set an industry standard? Moreover, how can they garner and maintain stakeholder trust? We have answered this by providing a solution, which is to focus on organic growth within the company, expanding honest jobs, and also increasing awareness and engagement with our key stakeholders. Financially speaking, as we can see on the right-hand side, we are projecting that revenue will increase by 2.5 times within 7 years. This will prove that our business model is profitable. Moreover, there will be a 30% market share in 7 years, which goes to show that there is market demand for an ethical business model. Who are our stakeholders? As we can see, employers, agencies, government, and workers are our key stakeholders for the company. They are all interconnected, and within our company strategy, we are going to interact with employers and the government through education on ethical working and hiring processes. Moreover, we aim to empower our workers, and for our agencies, we are looking to set an industry standard within our business practices, which will hopefully be emulated by other agencies. In terms of our corporate structure, we are wanting to incorporate a servant leadership model. We believe that this will encapsulate the core values of our company as a non-profit organization. What this means is that we are going to abolish the traditional hierarchy within the company, and instead we will look to maintain integrity and also focus on the personalization of our services, which is to care for our key stakeholders and employees and not commoditize them. This will foster community within our company and also drive everyone towards a common purpose. I will now pass on to Liam.
Kia ora, it's over to me to set a few overarching focal points for the evolution of this business. And it boils down to an ethical surplus while increasing impact. And there are three main focal questions which frame this in a bit of a wider way. And the first is sustainably increasing impact. The second is proving that the current no placement fees model can continue to create a sustainable surplus, and proving this will be essential for setting the industry standard that FEA wishes to create. And the third question is how FEA can garner and maintain the trust of its various stakeholders, which will be essential for maintaining the integrity of the business as you expand. A little bit more on impact. We, as a team, have come up with three main elements of increasing your impact as a business. And the first two are awareness and engagement. What awareness looks like in an expansion is increasing the efficacy of the business by spreading the word about the no fees model and spreading the word about the personalized services that you offer. This will increase the amount of demand for your service and allow revenue to stay high throughout this expansion. Engagement, we have defined engagement as the maintenance of consumer satisfaction. Your consumer satisfaction, as you know, is very high, above 90% for both employees and employers. Personally engaging with both of these stakeholders is incredibly important for this expansion, as the satisfaction needs to remain high to set an industry standard. A radical business like yours in this market will need to prove that it provides a quality service in order to increase its market share. And revenue is the great justifier. Awareness and engagement are the two key goals, and keeping revenue high is the justifier that will allow this expansion to be viable. We have come up with three core strategies for you to keep awareness high through this expansion. And the first is word of mouth. Word of mouth. The already satisfied customers or stakeholders of your business should be encouraged to share their experience with those on the ground, with those looking to travel to Hong Kong and become domestic workers there. This empowers those who are already serving as domestic workers, and it also fosters a sense of connection between these people, which is important when uprooting one's life and moving to another country. Through some market research, we have identified YouTube as an important medium for online marketing, with a 94% penetration rate in Indonesia. And backing up this marketing through YouTube, we suggest that you use search engine optimization, so that once this penetration rate is achieved and the consumers are reached and the consumers wish to learn more about your product, when they type FEA into Google, your website will be the first result, and they will be able to access reliable information about your services, which will drive up demand while keeping satisfaction high and ease of use high. Thirdly is the pledge system that you already have implemented. We suggest that the educational programs should be stressed with particular regard to the targeting of the employers. And we suggest that you continue to hammer home the reality that is their potential to face criminal liability from hiring for hiring from unethical agencies, such as the 70% of unregistered agencies in Hong Kong that are your competition. We hope that the signatories that have already signed up to the pledge, such as Barclays Bank, will be able to leverage their high brand equity to further increase awareness as well. A core strength of your business we have identified is the service and attention to detail that has engaged your consumers so far and achieved your very high satisfaction rate. In order for this to continue through an expansion, we suggest that you leverage the integrity of the business and keep the business personal. Making sure that the customers still feel as if they are being personally looked after, not dehumanizing and not running the risk of commoditizing the workers. Also, your technology is more advanced than other businesses in the field, and this should be leveraged through the previously mentioned advertising, as it is a key asset.
So there's a number of opportunities available to you. They include building on organic growth, working through supporting honest job expansion, franchising your business model, or growing the Philippines expansion further. So we've broken down the scalability, time, and practicality of these three main options. So a couple of highlights to consider is the high level of practicality organically growing your business has, the great scalability that franchising has, and the challenges that you would face just simply building on Philippines expansion. Now, you can see that cumulatively, organic growth is the best model, the best of these three options. In terms of implementation for this organic growth system, we plan to continue the success of your existing strategy. To support this growth into the future, we recommend establishing a new office, and over the course of 5 years, 10 new hires to support and keep the personalization that you currently enjoy with your prospective customers. We have the targets for this is a 30% share of the incoming migrants by 2028. That will be about 2,400 migrants. We have a checkpoint as well, we recommend, which is 20% by 2024. We recommend to use this to establish the success of the current plan and evaluate the position and targets that you see for the future and the continuation of the second portion of this implementation. The second part is the expansion of honest jobs into Indonesia. This will cost we expect an upfront capital investment of $500,000 to establish a national headquarters in Indonesia to support the connectivity with Hong Kong. There's 43% of the migrant population that works in homes in Hong Kong come from Indonesia. And so the aim is to emulate the success of the Philippines to cater to 98% of the domestic worker market within Hong Kong.
We've done some market research in order to justify this secondary step of expanding honest jobs to Indonesia. And so first, it's important to acknowledge that your business obviously only has a 30% ownership of honest jobs, and you will have to convince the other 70% to approve of this expansion. However, we don't see this as a major issue, as Honest Jobs shares similar values to your business, and we believe that they would cooperate in this expansion. Secondly, we believe that this is justified because the unilateral expansion, i.e. only expanding in Hong Kong, does not address the issue of exploitation at its source. The beauty of Honest Jobs is it provides education and agency to workers before they are even contacted by these corrupt agencies and before they are brought into the vicious cycle of debt bondage. However, having agencies on the ground and helping workers from the minute that they decide to move to Hong Kong is a better mitigation of the risk of these workers being drawn into debt bondage and better achieves the charitable purpose of FEA. We have targeted Indonesia because we believe it has the greatest potential for expansion of FEA. As you can see on the right side of this slide, we have reproduced figure 2C from the case, which shows the percentages of domestic workers in Hong Kong by their ethnic makeup. And as it stands, 43% of domestic workers were untouched by Honest Jobs, as there is no office in Indonesia. So expanding into Indonesia and gaining access to this area of the market would increase the reach of Honest Jobs by up to 78%. We also anticipate that there will be no shortage of demand for this service in the future, as per figure 3D, there is forecasted to be a 50% of foreign domestic workers by 2047, which is 200,000 workers.
As for pricing with the FEA costs, we would like to keep it at the same range it is now in the mid-market, which is $1,275, and this allows for our projected surplus allows for competitive price reduction if needed. And moreover, on those competitors, they are largely charging bondage fees and high placement fees, of which are up to 25 times the legal amount, which allows for them to be highly profitable and room for them to drop their prices, of which we would be able to compete with. Secondly, it's the USP, the unique selling points of the business that would really help give us a competitive advantage, being the efficacy of the business, as well as the no worker fees, no placement fees on behalf of the workers. And thirdly, the education about criminal liability for employers and consequences of debt bondage for workers. This would largely be through the pledge program, as Liam discussed earlier. We've identified 4 main risks. First of all, being the advertisement not being effective, of which we, if YouTube and search optimization is not effective, we still have the education, as I mentioned earlier, which would help drive people to choose our services. And secondly would be the undercut in prices from competitors, given that they have the resources to. However, as I stated earlier, the projected surplus would mean that FEA would be able to do the same. Thirdly would be the poor employer buy-in, which, however, is low probability because the survey was done with 70% of employers are happy paying at a premium in order to bring in workers who have no loan. And fourthly is commoditizing workers, which would mitigate this by keeping the integrity of the business and not and given it a personal touch. And for the finances of this project, we expect total costs to be recouped in 3 years. And as you can see on the right-hand side of the cash flows, we expect negative cash flows for the first 2 years. However, exponential growth in profits from there onwards, which is the large surplus to be used for various future endeavours. And Liam will speak further on why this initial investment is effective and necessary.
So we acknowledge the high initial cost of this expansion, but to offset these costs and make them more palatable year over year, we suggest a 7-year timeline for expansion. And through figures 3C and 3D of the case, we will assume a linear growth of migration into Hong Kong for domestic work based on the projection of 200,000 extra workers by 2047, which would be around 2,400 migrants per year, as Darius has mentioned. In order to keep up with this demand, the first practical step will be the rollout in 2022, which will be introducing a new office for new hires and will feature a heavy marketing focus to maximize that awareness and that engagement that will be needed to get this expansion off the ground. As we expect demand to increase through to 2023, we recommend 2 new hires and an increase in the pledge education campaign to make sure that the employers are on board and mitigate the risk of poor employer buy-in that Josh identified earlier. In 2024, we recommend 1 new hire, and we also recommend a checkpoint where you evaluate your position based on the goal of 20% market share, and it is here where the plan could be adapted to mitigate against any new unforeseen risks that may emerge. In 2025 to 27, we recommend 1 new hire per annum to keep up with this linear growth. And in 2028, the 7-year plan will conclude. This is where an evaluation and re-evaluation of position will be important. And this should be assessed against the 30% market share goal and assessment as to whether the goal of setting an industry standard has been achieved. And what that means is whether other businesses are adapting their practices and moving into more ethical hiring, as is the goal of your business.
For the Indonesian expansion of Honest Jobs, we've got a shorter 1-year timeline. Starting off, looking to establish the infrastructure of the business and the business HQ in Indonesia. So this will be things like sourcing buildings and working with legislative branches and working through that. From the 5th month, we'll start looking into the hiring process and working with our current employees and potential future employees to bring them onto this Indonesian expansion. We're looking at bringing those workers from Hong Kong and the Philippines with experience in this company culture. We're looking to bring them over and see who is interested in shifting. In month 7, we'll start the marketing campaign previously mentioned. And we'll start, now that we've selected the employees, we'll start the training process to ensure that everybody is up to speed and has this great standard that your current employees enjoy. In month 9, we'll begin operation. After a 3-month period of this operation, we recommend looking to evaluate your position, see what's successful and some of the challenges that you faced along the way, and what you can do to improve things in the future.
In conclusive summary, we have been asked how FEA can increase its impact and therefore set an industry standard. We have answered this by saying through organic growth and the expansion of honest jobs. Furthermore, how can they garner and maintain stakeholder trust? We have responded to this by saying that we should focus on the awareness and engagement with our key stakeholders. Moreover, we also have the financial figures to support the idea that our ethical business model is not only profitable, but there is market demand for it. We would like to thank you for taking the time to listen to us today and invite any questions you might have.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It is now time for the Q&A session. 15-minute countdown will start now. Let's hear the first question, please.
Very good presentation. So I just have one quick question. So you have very clear goals, which is revenues and market shares. So as you know, FEAs are non-for-profit organizations. So once you have all those revenues, I did not see actually you have a cost analysis on that. So this is a revenue. This is a profit, or this is revenue. The revenue 2.5, which you're talking about your profit. You're talking about your revenue.
So the revenue, this is revenue that's expected to increase in by 2.5 times, and we understand that it is a non-for-profit organization. However, I believe that you do need revenue of some standard in order to continue operations, and also to expand. Our main goal is to set an industry standard among hiring agencies where we may have 30% market share. However, we believe that's a good threshold in order to set a standard for everyone, for the rest of the 70%, in order to do similar practices to us.
To what Josh has said, sorry. Essentially, one of the goals of the business is to prove that it is profitable as an organisation, so that other industries will also look to us and be able to see that through not doing practices such as charging high fees to these workers, that they can also achieve a profit. And that's what our revenue figures represent.
And additionally, just on that, we did identify in the case that as a charity, FEA are in a position where they cannot use equity or shares to gain capital. And so by targeting an increase in revenue, we were hedging against trying to work towards the possibility of future expansion of your business, as we see revenue growth as the best way FEA has is to generating capital for future expansion.
Can you go back to your cash flows slide?
Yep. There's also another slide of a cash flow breakdown where we break down all the costs and revenue.
Okay, thanks.
So from me, perhaps we can leave in that slide. But first of all, thank you very much for your presentation and spending the time to share with us your thoughts on FEA. Appreciate that. So the question I have, like on this slide, since we're on it, how did you come up with? So can you explain a little bit more your cash flow assumptions here?
Sure. So first of all, for the first year, the marketing expenses we predicted to be about $200,000 and to increase by 5% per annum as the business increases. And secondly, with the branch expansion, the new branch expansion in Hong Kong, the first year cost would be about $352,000, of which is calculated with $63,000 per worker, which includes $8,000 on average per worker in terms of leasing the office, as well as a $55,000 salary. And thirdly, the Honest Jobs expansion is $500,000 in the first year, and those costs to decrease by 15% per annum, as it would still need more cash flow towards it than the first year.
And the revenue piece from it. So how did you come up to the revenue that offsets this capex for the expansion?
So the revenue was calculated, as was mentioned earlier on one of the slides, 2,400 migrant workers multiplied by the price of $1,275, and we've predicted an incremental increase in number of workers from the first year being 1,000 to all the way up to 2,400 in the second year.
Okay. And then the last question from me, and then I'll pass on to Peggy. So if I understand correctly, your recommendation is to focus on 3 key areas, right? One, you said awareness. The second one is engagement, and then the third one you put revenue. Right. So this is where they should be focusing on going forward, right? And then awareness, you mentioned about word of mouth, YouTube, search optimization. Can you is this something that they are not doing this today, or like can you explain to me a little bit more when you mean awareness? I would expect that this is already underway or done. Like what is novel about this this idea?
These 3 ideas simply represent the 3 modes of advertising that we think should be stressed the most. And we acknowledge that they are quite standard forms of advertising, but we also approach this case with the idea of do simple best, meaning that we're taking simple strategies and advising you to heavily stress them and try to implement them with maximum effectiveness. This idea of using simple advertising strategies to raise awareness, we think will provide a very effective strategy at a relatively low cost. And just to answer about, did you have a question about why we placed revenue as a focus for impact?
Yes. So awareness is fine. And then engagement, you mentioned about integrity, technology, personification. When you say technology, can you just elaborate a little bit more on that? And then on the revenue, why, to your point, why is that a focus area for them? So, but on the technology there, can you just elaborate a little bit more?
Yep. So I will just cover the revenue, and then I will pass on to Darius to discuss the technology. Okay. The revenue, we have placed it as an impact focus because we identified from the case that FEA as a business, you feel pressure to prove that the no placement fees model can create a sustainable surplus. And we believe that keeping revenue high is a way to prove this. And that is how you would best set the industry standard. So yes, that's why we focused on revenue as one of our 3 major points. And I'll just pass on to Darius for the technology.
So talk about the reason why the technology is really, really significant is that, as you well know, that you have a significant technological advantage over many of your competition who primarily focus on paper and lacking digitalization and technological integration. So one of the things that's really important to maintain your personalization with the direct connection between your staff members who connect customers with employers. But we also think that as you expand, it's really important to emphasize and grow the technological elements that don't impair personalization. So this is things like online forms that you can fill out, to provide rough, the prospective employees can provide rough goals and information about themselves to help those who will contact them and phone them and talk to them directly. Secondly, having something like having connections straight on the website through direct messaging and chatbots will also assist to have the advantages of immediate responses to questions and standardized answers to frequently asked questions. It will also mean that you have the access to the direct human interaction during business hours.
Thanks.
Can you go to the page with the timeline as well as the hiring? Yep, this one. Yep. Can you tell me what are those hires are for? And then I also see like new office and so forth. So I just want to kind of understand, all these spend. What are they trying to deliver?
So the new office is to physically house the new employees that would be hired, and the new hires would be to personally engage with the migrant customers, as we understand your current workers already do. And so the reason that we would suggest such expenditure on new hires would be to keep the staff to migrant ratio similar and continue to deliver that personalized experience, because we believe that your personalization is one of the key reasons that your customer satisfaction is so high. And we wanted to keep that.
So is there a ratio in terms of 1 to how many that you want to keep?
We haven't set a numerical target, but we wanted to keep it at as high as possible. And we figured that 10 new hires would be the most that could be financially justified at the current time.
Okay. Have you ever thought of, leveraging technology in terms of, saving some cost? I mean, both for office and the new hire in your servicing model?
We considered it, but due to our high value of personalization and the human-to-human interaction of your business, we decided that could be a strategy that would be implemented later and we believe that this is a better option for now, especially in the times of COVID-19, where people are much more vulnerable than perhaps in previous years. We think that person-to-person connection is even more important, even if it is over the phone. Speaking to someone real rather than engaging with a chatbot is much more emotionally satisfying for the consumers.
To add to what Liam has just said and to reinforce what Darius previously said, we do have a strong technological focus, and that does include the incorporation of online technological adaptations such as the frequently asked questions, the chatbots, and also the ability to get questions answered in a rapid period of time.
Okay. To the market share point that you have here, how do you kind of define yourselves in terms of the 30% exactly, right? Is it mainly through the awareness campaign that you mentioned? I just want to know how you come up with achieving the 30% in 7 years.
So sorry, just to clarify, so you were asking our goal, like how we calculated the number 30%?
Well, yeah, I think both. One is, how do you come up with the 30%? Then I guess is just want to confirm my understanding is it through the awareness and the engagement is where you think that it will reach you the 30%?
Okay. So firstly, we've set the 30% market share as a goal, as we think that 30% is a sufficient number for FEA to start influencing the way the industry operates as a whole. We think that your business needs to be a major player in order to influence these other agencies to operate more ethically. And we think that awareness and engagement will be a big part of gaining that, but also non-price competition. So the unique selling points of no fees for the workers, and also the ethical premium that employers place on their hiring strategies. These two unique selling points will allow us to compete and increase our market share. And what the awareness and the engagement do is they bring attention to those unique selling points and allow your business to leverage those selling points in order to increase your market share. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I think we
Thanks.
don't really have time for any more questions, but thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, the judges. So the team will place you now back in a waiting room for a few minutes. So the judges, so exactly for 8 minutes. Again, so judges can have a little bit of time to deliberate, and we will bring you back for the feedback session.
Thanks, everyone.
And judges will stay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
you.